the best after Christmas gift I've ever got.
Yeah. Well, and you brought your brother, right? Because Adriana, your wife,
Yeah.
couldn't really make it because she was with the baby, newborn.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what'd your brother think about all this craziness?
My brother's pretty well read and experienced, and he's done a lot. He's kind of like I would almost call like a Renaissance man. But it was funny, like I mean, he even there was a period in time when he was working in foreign countries as like an English um, teacher. He was in Korea, in South Korea, teaching English to elementary school kids, and then he went to Argentina and was teaching English to business owners, and then he spent like uh, a summer in the hostel in a town called Bariloche, which is kind of like the I don't know, let's call it the Tahoe of Argentina, the Lake Tahoe of Argentina, yeah. And so anyway, he's so I was interested to get his take, and he was just like, I've never, in all my travels and his career, never seen anything like it. He was like, and you people actually like genuinely like each other. I'd never forget it. He was because he worked for a pretty big corporate company, where they'd have these kind of events, and it always felt forced. Like when people were trying to like, go to the like the party of, like celebratory events. He said it was always forced, right? Until like people had 4 or 5 drinks, he felt like it was forced until then. But here it was like people actually wanted to be around each other, and you would see them together, when they weren't in that environment, like enjoying each other's company, and that just goes to, talks right to, the Alliance family. Um, so that was pretty good to hear. And yeah, he was trying to find out how he can come to Thailand, but Andreina said, "No way, no way, dude."
That's my trip.
So,
Oh man, it was really incredible. I think one of the well, I'll have you kind of kick it off, Pablo. So you had a chance to get around these mega producers, right? These the people that made the trip, and then the on the extension we got to hang around the mega producers, and there's a lot of commonality amongst all of them. But what did you learn getting around some of these folks that you got around? But just in general, anything specific or anything that you picked up that you took with you back?
yeah, I mean, probably, from the onset, because we were there, it was a rewards trip, right? So number one, I would say these people they knew how to run a business or run their business, and then they also knew how to like enjoy themselves and not take themselves too seriously. Like each and every one of these people, you could just tell they genuinely enjoyed their like growing their business, but then also being able to enjoy their life, which they made, they built into the business. Everyone talks about like the work life balance. And the truth is that like if you can't balance, if you can't mix the two together, then you're probably not balanced, right? I mean, it's more about being in harmony. And that's what I felt like everyone was there. Like I just got to spend a lot of time with Pablo and Sarah Seifert.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of my favorite people, man.
Oh man, me too, man. Me too, for sure. I'd sent them a message. I was like, man, I'm so glad you guys let me hang out with your group for a bit. But they just you wouldn't know it. Like you wouldn't know that they were successful agency owners. And it kind of reminds you, it's like that's what I want to be. I don't want to be like somebody who's like, oh yeah, there's that guy who's in life insurance and he happens to have a cool family, right? Or he happens to have a really awesome wife and kids. And like I want them to know me for me and, my identity, which, for me is pretty strong in my faith, um, before they even, bring up what I do. And that was something that I really noticed that these folks had, right? They wore their identity on their sleeve, and it wasn't the insurance business, right?
Yeah.
So that was first thing, and then I think a more probably um, what's the word? Not practical, but um,
Yeah, I guess basically practical.
but yeah. So the other thing was that they knew their numbers, like they knew what they were really good at, and they knew their numbers, like they knew how many leads they had to have for themselves, for their business, for their team, in order to get the numbers that they needed to hit, right? In order to hit this goal for the month, in order to do 100,000 for the month, this is how many leads we had to have. This is where they're coming from, and not everyone had like just one thing, right? Um, this business can get pretty saturated if you only do one thing, and that's why I love the idea of like mixing, teacher retirement with estate planning,
Yeah.
with referral business. And a lot of the referral business came from, just getting the word out to their clients, that they had served in those first two options. So, and they knew down to the numbers. I mean, they were like, I remember Andy, I forget Andy's last name, Indian fella from Houston, his wife Preeti. Anyway, he literally was like, he's like, do you want to see my spreadsheets? I was like, no, man, I'm cool. But anyway, but that guy's awesome. I've got a call with him, because he was doing some stuff in like the IUL and annuity space that I was like, dude, in like a half an hour of just sitting with him and chatting with him, I was like, hold on, let me take out my phone. I gotta start writing some of this stuff down. So we're gonna have a call next week, because he wants to share. But that was the other thing. It's like, dude, everyone wanted to share their stuff, right? Everyone wanted, like, no one was holding back. No one was like, well, those are secrets, and you know. So yeah, you've always fostered that from day one. That, like, we don't hide anything. It's like family, and that's why you have guests from other teams even that are willing to come and share the knowledge with us. So
Yeah, for sure.
thanks for yeah, no, it was awesome to be part of that culture, man, at that level.
I definitely have the guests lined up for this call the next like 3-4 weeks. I know who I want to bring on and what they're going to talk about. It's going to be really good. So, I'd recommend y'all don't miss this. Don't miss the sales Zoom call. We're going to get some high-powered people that are killing it in their respective thing. And I think the main message really that I want to convey with all these guests is, and they're specifically working a particular lead program that, I want you guys to learn about. For all you telesales people, there are some very specific lead programs. If you want to do high volume, you want to make, $200,000 a year, without breaking a sweat. They're very, on telesales, I don't know how many people want to. That's the other thing. I typically find that the people that want to will do what we recommend and will, without hesitation, they'll jump into it, because mostly that's some of the commonality of all these people is that, they jumped in on faith. Okay. These are the people, because I was really kind of interviewing a bunch of different ones, and I found certain qualities that were similar. The idea of faith, when things didn't seem like they were working, they still hung in there long enough, and they found that what they were not doing, or what they found was they were not doing what we meaning the upline was recommending, and they thought they were doing it, like dial the leads. And people don't understand what that really means, right? They interpret it in their own, well, I am dialing. Okay, when are you dialing? Well, I'm dialing morning one time in the morning, one time in the afternoon. You call that dialing? Well, and then how many times do you call in each lead? Well, I just hit them 3 times, dial them 3 times, and then move on. How many times do you rotate through those? Well, I don't. I just go through them once. I'm going, oh my gosh. And so we can't just let people get away with saying stuff that means to them. It means to them one thing what you say, and to us it means, like, if you're doing telesales, you got to be willing to dial $500 a day, and you got to be willing to be on the phone, 6 to 8 hours on the phone, which means you're probably sitting at your desk dialing, 8 to 10 hours. Okay, you got to be willing to do it to get 2 to 3 sales a day. And 2 to 3 sales a day doesn't sound much, but when you're doing telesales 5 days in a row, you are at the top of the top, right? But there's a reason why these top people, and I'm talking top people both in telesales and in home sales. Next week we're going to have Scotty Kustra. Used to play for the Bengals. This guy that's 6'5", 6'6", 350. This guy's a big guy.
Scott.
I'm sorry?
Big Scott.
Yeah, Big Scott. He dials bang leads. He does 50 bang leads a day. He does in-home appointments in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And if, we call it Vietnam. Okay, there's an army base. And he hammers it. And I go, tell me about the bang leads. He goes, dude, I have a love-hate relationship with them. It's like, thank God someone's willing to say that they have a love-hate relationship with the leads. If you don't have a love-hate relationship with your leads, then you aren't working them. Well, Alex, shouldn't I have a love relationship? No, because that's totally false. You are lying if you say you have a love relationship with your leads. You should have a love-hate relationship with your leads. Because not every lead is a perfect lead, right? When he said that, it's like, you're my man. You're going to be on my conference call. This guy made the trip, Scotty Kustra. So those of you that are doing face-to-face on bang leads, you want to be on this call next Thursday because you want to hear Scotty Kustra, former Bengals and Ravens O-line, or maybe it's defensive. I can't remember which one. And he played for like 10, 11 years until he broke his neck. And he's one of our top agents. He's the coolest guy. We got a chance to really spend time. So I'm going to have him on the call talking about working bang leads. But Alex, bang leads suck. Yeah. He says they suck all the way to the Cabo trip. Okay. He just cracks me up. Love, hate. It's like, baby. And he does only 250 a week. He's built up a reserve. Because I get this, well, Alex, I only have like 30 leads to dial. How can I get $500 in? It's like, dude, come on, man. You're going to ramp up to, you're going to have leads from, a month ago, leads from 3 weeks ago, leads from 2 weeks ago, leads from last week, and then your new leads. You're going to have plenty of leads to dial $500 a day. When you accumulate the unresolved leads over time, so don't get hung up so much if you're brand new. You're going to create an inventory of old leads, and maybe you're augmenting your lead with lead orders, etc. But all these people have started where you're starting. What they have learned is to have faith. Like I forgot who I was talking to. I go, so tell me, it was Jeff Schultz. So Jeff Schultz, my buddy, we've had him on this call before. He's a big annuity guy. He wanted to get back to basics and just really learn telesales. And then he just did this last couple months, I think. He wanted to learn telesales, and because he just wanted to get back to basics on fall expense telesales. And so he's using a lead program. I think it's the vertical leads. These are $18 leads that are these are mega high intent leads. And he's freaking killing it. And he's learned the telesale. This is a guy that likes to do face-to-face appointments. For the past month and a half, he's doing well with these leads. And so we're going to probably have Jeff on talk about his transition to doing telesales. And he said something to me that just, he goes, because he's coaching agents, because that he's hiring. He goes, yeah, dude. He goes, is it always like this when you're talking to agents? I go, what do you mean? He goes, dude, I don't coach mechanics. I coach mindset and attitude. I coach them jumping off the bridge. It's like I coach their emotional state. I go, dude, yeah. He said something that was really profound. He goes, it's like the mechanics. Any monkey can do mechanics, right? Any monkey can do mechanics. It's the mindset, growing the mindset of be tough enough to get through the learning process, to get to the point where you are closing on a consistent basis. It's a mind game, gang. If you're thinking it's a skill issue, it ain't no skill issue. Skill issue is you going out there, dialing the damn phone, getting people on the phone, getting hung up on, going through crap until you make a sale. And then you thinking, okay, how do I make that sale? If you're smart, and you're going through checklists in your mind, all the things you were supposed to do, you probably did, and you found a good client that was open and receptive. Right? And then you're starting to get more because you're starting to recognize those clients, and you're hitting the phones more, like we say, so you can just dial the dadgum phone so you can get the right people on the line. But Alex, they're not picking up. Dude, because you're not dialing the damn phone. Come on. How many times? This is the thing. These people are willing to dial $500 a day. They don't care how many dials. They don't even count anymore because what they count are results. And if they don't get 3 sales, they're going to work Saturday. If they don't get 2 to 3 sales a day, they're going to work Saturday. If they don't get 2 to 3 sales in the first, 8 hours, they're going to work another 4 hours to get that extra sale. They don't even count their dials anymore because it doesn't matter how many dials, because they're willing to dial as many dials as it takes. Does that make sense? Am I getting through to anybody here? See, when you get immersed in a bunch of winners, you have less tolerance for whiners that talk about how hard it is, because these guys know hard, and they lived through the hard. They survived what you're going through now. They survived the mental game. It ain't supposed to be easy. Can I break it down to you that this is not supposed to be easy? Because if it were easy, we'd make minimum wage. We make a lot of money doing what we do because we're willing to get on the phone and dial the crap out of the phone. And we're willing to take no's and no's so we can get a yes. How many no's, it doesn't matter. Now, if you're starting out brand new, why do we want you to count? Because you got to know your numbers. You're not mentally strong enough to do whatever it takes to get a sale. But I need to know how wimpy you are first so I can encourage you to dial more. Right? How many times I said dial more, dial more, dial more? Then I look at the reports like, oh, okay, well, I guess I got to find more agents that are willing to do what we recommend. And that's what Andy Albright said on this weekend. We had our mandatory tax write-off meeting to make it a business meeting. And so we had 2 sessions. We had the regular session in Cabo, and then the extension trip, we moved to San Jose, which was closer to the airport, the same area basically, about 20 miles north, and this is a Michelin resort. It was insane. It was totally insane, this resort. And we had another meeting there. And their mentality, what Andy Albright said in the first meeting in Cabo was, gang, you got to find people that are willing to do what you say. Right? And somebody saying, what we say, because would you recommend Okay, we're not your boss, you know. But here's kind of the interesting thing is we're only going to recommend what's going to help you become successful, right? That's all we're going to recommend, because why would we want to tell you something that doesn't work? Why in the heck would we want to tell you something that doesn't work? It doesn't make sense, does it? We're all going to try to recommend what works because we want you successful. And then when you turn in your activity report, it's like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, he said, you just got to find people that are going to do what you tell them to do. And I said, amen, brother. And it's not like we don't work with people that don't do what we recommend. We just try to recommend, keep recommending, and someday it's going to sink in or not. Someday it's not. Okay? Someday it's not. But here's what's really interesting is getting into a crowd of high producers where they were getting together. Do you think that their level of conversation was talking about how to withstand all the no's and all the frustrations of this and, of a new person? No. They talk about different frustrations. They're trying to get more out of their time. So these frustrations are getting more efficient, writing higher premium policies. What kind of lead program can I, get where I can get into, these kind of high level conversations? I love it. It's a different vibe. It's a different buzz. And they're all wanting to be better. See, everyone that came to this trip, they were wanting to enjoy themselves with their spouse, with their plus one, right? They were looking to, it was a reward for them for their great production last year in 2024. But at the same time, they knew that they were around the top producers. So just the buzz and having lunch and dinner together with different couples, we get to know each other. We get into each other's lives. But then eventually it turned into, so tell me about the lead programs you're running and what are you doing here and how are you finding more annuities and high level conversations that instead of writing, 300,000 of premium a year, they can get up to 500,000 from premium a year. Instead of writing 1 million of annuities, how can I write $10 million of annuities? And I'm not kidding. There are people that wrote 1 million last year that are on track, actually 2 million last year, are on track to do 10 million this year. And these agents are talking about how you doing that, right? I love it, man. I love it. So again, going back to my insanity rant.
Got you fired up. So it sounds like that conference you went to got you fired up.
Well, yeah, it did. It did. It got me fired up about very particular lead programs that we're going to talk to you about. And so this one lead program, I'm not going to say it here, but this one lead program is off the hook. Very high intent leads, and agents are just killing it with this program. And there are like 4 agents on the Manly team that are on it right now. They're just absolutely smoking it. So we're going to have, I think we're going to have Julius get on our call to talk about that. And I think the leads are like, depending on how many you buy, I think if you buy 100, it's like $35 a lead. If you buy 200, it goes down to like $28 a lead, something like that. These are high intent. Actually, I think they're high intent IUL leads, actually. Yeah, we're going to have Julius come on and talk about that. But that's a lot of money. Oh my gosh. You know how much you guys are making off these lead programs? You guys are killing it. Absolutely killing it. And so the conversation I had, I did finish my story, is the faith part, right? And we're talking about, I told him, yeah, here's one of the biggest faith moments. It's the Indiana Jones Holy Grail movie. And he's trying to cross over to where the Holy Grail exists, and there's this chasm that he's looking at. But there's actually a land bridge that you can't see because it blends into the background. And so he puts his hand on his heart, sticks his foot out, and he steps. And the camera goes from his perspective, and it goes around to the side, and you can see the land bridge as it emerges from the background, right? And he just walks across the land bridge to get to where the Holy Grail is. That's called faith. And one of the faith things is going from an agent's going from, actually it's 500 to 1,000 a week, right? And they're probably doing 20,000 a month on 500 a week. But to get them to 40,000, obviously it's double the money. You got to double your investment, right, to 1,000 a week. And that's the leap of faith. Because, oh man, I've never spent 1,000 a week. Well, you spend 1,000 every 2 weeks. All you're doing is you're crunching it in a week, right? If you're doing 250 a week, you're 1,000 a month. Let's get you down to 1,000 every 2 weeks. Let's get you 1,000 a week. And, right, then your ratios go up, right? You think you're at least do double. Actually, what happens is because you have so many leads that you're working, you don't care anymore. You're just cherry picking, find the good ones. And what happens is that it's going to take you less time. It's not going to be double the time. It might be 60, 70% of the time you're spending on the phone because you got so many leads you're working through. You're really kind of in mental cherry picking mode. And you're not sweating the ones that you're trying to convince to book an appointment with you, or you doing a presentation on them. So so it becomes less efficient, but it becomes more efficient because you're less time on the phone to make sales. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but there is a factor that kicks in, and it's getting agents to go from 500 to 1,000. And it's like, dude, so what are your numbers when you do every 2 weeks? So tell me what you do every 2 weeks. Well, I do, about 10,000 every 2 weeks. Okay. And how much you spend on leads? Well, I paid 1,000. Okay. Let's run that by me again. How much you spend for leads? About 1,000 every 2 weeks. Then what do you do in production? Oh, about 10 to 15. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Do you think if you did 10 to 15 a week, that would be better than doing 10 to 15 every 2 weeks? Well, obviously every week. Oh, really? So you'd rather do 10 to 15 every week. So can I make a suggestion? It's obvious, right? Why don't you just order all those in 1 week? But it's a mental game because they got to take the leap of faith that they can actually convert, like they're converting. And then once you convince, and I've had these conversations with some top producers in my 25 years to get them over the hump of the lead investment. Some people it's 250 to 500, but the more often than not I've had conversations with people in my hierarchy that's from 50 and outside my hierarchy, it goes from 500 to 1,000 a week, right? Because mentally what they do is they go 1,000 a week is 4,000 a month, which is like, man, that's 48,000 a year in lead. It's like, okay, 48,000. But they don't remember that their return on investment is going to be more than that, right? They're going to make 250,000 after they invested 48,000, and that's just without referrals. Okay, I'm just talking without referrals. So, am I making sense? Because some of y'all are like so scared. Now I know some of you are just getting started, right? And you're going through the learning curve, but you get so damn discouraged so easily. Well, I talked to like 3 people. They yelled at me. Well, how many dollars do you make? 25. Okay, now are you part-time? Well, no, I lost my job, so I'm full-time. Okay, so $25 took you how long? Half an hour? The mentality is just crazy. And some of you have to get over that. You got to get over yourself. You got to totally get over yourself. You got to get over your emotions. You start coupling this business with your emotions, you are in the wrong damn business. I'm telling you, man. You're in the wrong business. Who gets in 100% commission sales to get validation? If you're looking for validation from your clients in 100% commission sales, you're in the wrong damn business. You should be a kindergarten teacher. Does that make sense? Don't look for emotional validation from 100% commission business. You get emotional validation from the ones who love you unconditionally, like your family, right? You don't get it from clients. Oh my gosh. Wake up. Become an adult. Let's talk about maturity, emotional IQ. Decouple your emotions from the sales business. It'll, even if you made a big sale, don't go like running down the street naked. Yeah, you're fired up, but just calm down, because the next day you're going to maybe make no sales. Alex, is that smart to discourage people? No, I'm just telling you straight up what you're going to encounter. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Stay right in the middle, man. Don't get emotional. Just keep pounding the phone. You know, be very scientific. Be very numbers. And it cracks me when everyone says, well, it's a game of numbers. This is a game of numbers. Oh, dude, you are going to quit. I know, in 3 weeks. The people that say it's a game of numbers, it's a game of emotions. Numbers aren't emotional. But you get all emotional on numbers, but you say it's a game of numbers. It ain't no game of numbers, because it's a game of emotions for you. People say that. I love when people don't say it, because they know what sales is about. Decoupling their emotions from the results, from the bad results, right? I think, Pablo, you had your hand up.
Dude, I was just saying preach on, but I think you and I, like, we've had calls where, like, exactly that, man. I'd been going through some SHIT, and, you know, I think at no point I was more concerned with managing my emotion on the, like, personal stuff, more so than I was concerned about what's going to happen with sales. I just knew that sticking with guys like you, and keeping my head straight on the other stuff, that the sales were just gonna come.
Yep. You're right, dude. And in fact, that is probably the most important conversation I can have with anyone, is how to deal with the outside crap that takes you off your game from sales. So, like, decoupling your emotions from people that don't know you, that you're calling on leads. When you think through it, it's like, it's pretty easy. Like, you figure it out. You just pound the phone enough times, you start developing the calluses right on your heart, where it doesn't bother you. After you make your first 10, 20 dials, then it's like, whatever, then you start plowing through it, and you're going to get to that mode. But one of the hardest things is the emotions outside the business affecting what you're doing inside the business, and maintaining a focus when all the other crap is falling down around you, right? And by the way, some of the agents that were on that trip had that stuff going on, like serious outside crap going on. And there's a few that I had to get, I had to encourage and hug them. Even though they're there on the trip, they got stuff going on at home, family stuff, children. Every one of those people, they all still have problems. Okay, so I don't want you to think that their lives are perfect, but they still come to enjoy themselves, and then also focus on what they got to do to become better next year, to earn, or this year, 2025, to earn Thailand. But one of the most important conversations is how to get your mind right when all the other stuff is falling apart around you. And that's an important skill to learn. Your ability to handle all the negative stuff in your life, particularly the personal negative stuff, where it does not impact your business, and sometimes can motivate you to really focus on your business, is one of the most important skills that you can learn in this business, is to continue doing what you have to do here, letting the stuff do whatever it's going to do, but then focusing here and doing what you have to do to pay the bills. Okay. And I love those conversations. So, hey, bring it on, man. I can handle it. Okay. And I may not be one to give advice per se, but I'm one to listen. Okay. So if you need to unload, I'm the perfect person to load too. Number one, it's the cone of silence. So it's like the confessional. Nothing leaves the confessional. I don't care if you're in the state of Washington or not. Some of you might get that joke. But that, I'm a good listener, at least. And maybe I have some advice, but I don't like to give advice per se. But, if there's something I think, I like to point to resources more than anything else. But look, I'm not going to offer it unless you're looking for it. So if you just need a shoulder to cry on or just someone to bitch to, I'm the perfect person. I'm not going to try to solve your world because I'm not trained in that. But I can give you stories of other people that, have done something that you're trying to do, or they've solved that same problem with doing something. I know enough people, that, especially outside my team, that counsel with me. So, those are very important skills, and your ability to handle those will really determine how you can handle your life and really how much money you're going to make. It really is. Guys that have been in business a long time, like Mark, he knows what I'm talking about. He's been in business long enough to know how to deal with all the little negative things he encountered early in his career. And then now it's just like no big thing because he just knows how to handle. You start learning how to handle stuff like your kid is throwing a tantrum in the middle of a store. Okay. You know how to handle it. If any of you have kids, I know that's happened to you. You have your way of handling it to deal with it, and you've learned how to do it. And then every subsequent kid, when they go into that mode, Jenny has hers, man. So those are things that you'll learn, and we want you to learn. But here's my urging. I want to urge you you need to talk to me more. You need to get around agents. You need to get around other agents. There's nothing more encouraging to get around other agents that are going through what you're going through, at a hotspot meeting. Now, I'm not talking about getting to a bitch session. Yeah, these leads suck. Oh, yeah, they suck for me too. It's like, that's not productive. What productive is, hey, how did you overcome, having to dial the bang bang leads a lot? Those are, positive questions that can help you, right? And going to hotspot meetings and getting around people like I think there was an Atlanta meeting last night, and we've got a number of agents in Atlanta. We're bringing on agents in Chicago. We got agents in Dallas. And you need to get on the Alliance website to find those meetings, because those are really the life preserver. I call them life preserver meetings because as you go there, so it just will keep you in another week, another 2 weeks, another day sometimes, because you hear other agents going through what you're going through, but they're giving you solutions. It's not all about just the, successful agents. The most important question you can ask a successful agent is, what did you overcome to get to where you're at? What were the hardest things for you that maybe you were thinking about quitting? How did you overcome those, right? The success, they became successful because they went through the garbage dump of failure. How they handled it is what you need to learn. How did they handle going through the learning curve to get to where they are? And you all can learn that. You learn it quicker by coming to a hotspot meeting, but here's where you're going to really learn it. We got an event in July, and I'm going to be relentless. I am going to encourage you to come to Family Reunion, July 18th through the 20th. I don't care if you got to borrow money from your mama. You need to come out there, and I am not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to take, how can we get you there? That's how I'm going to ask. How can we get to you? What do you have to overcome to get there? What is it? Because we've helped so many people overcome challenges. Everyone on this call, everyone not on this call, you need to get to Family Reunion in Burlington, North Carolina, July 18th to 20th. Why? For all the reasons I mentioned on this call, how to overcome what you're dealing with to become a mega producer. Well, Alex, I don't have the money to get there. It's like, dude, that's the reason why you need to get there. Like if I told you that I had a $10,000 check underneath one of the seats, the only way that I'm going to tell you where it is if you come down. Do you think you would figure out how to get the money to come to the event? I think you would, right? So use that mentality, because the check is the check you'll cash when you start going through the roof every month, every week on your production from the stuff you learn and the people that inspired you, right? The people that gave you another reason to stay in, to learn what you need to learn to get better at this, right? Everyone needs inspiration. You can't get inspiration on your own sitting in the basement of your mama's house eating Cheetos and scrolling through Facebook, okay, in your underwear. That's funny. That's the analogy we use all the time. Sitting in your mama's basement in your underwear, scrolling through Facebook eating Cheetos. That ain't the way, right? You got to get around the agents. You got to get that extra something. Everyone needs it. I don't know how you can do this on your own. I couldn't do it on my own. I had to come to events. I had to come to events in order to get where I am today. And I've only missed one because Jeannie went through cancer surgery, and I was still trying to figure out how can I get there and back quick enough. I know it's all you women out there are probably thinking how terrible that is to even think about it, but I want to go invest so much. I was thinking about it. How can I fly down there quick and come back and still help Ginny with her drains and stuff after cancer surgery? Fortunately enough, Jane Albright threatened to fire me if I did come down there. But she knows how I am, because it's like how Andy is. How can I figure out how to, and the first thought in my mind is, I'm not going down there. Well, look, when you commit to enough events, you know how important it is. See, this is speaking to how important I think events are. I was even thinking about how to get down there for my family, for Ginny, for my children, to provide for them, right? But, I made the better decision, which was to stay home. My point, however, is this is how important it is to me, even in 2018, 2019, when we had the surgery, double mastectomy, they're recommending a lumpectomy, right? But Jeannie said, no, I don't want to keep looking over my shoulder. We're going to do double mastectomy. So it was the big mama, right? Surgery. So, look, if there's anything you walk away from this call, it's how do I get down there to Burlington, North Carolina, July 18th through the 20th. We still have a few discount tickets. And if we run out of them, I think the discount tickets are what, $195 or something like that. Right now, I think the function is $3. And this includes meals, I think, 3 meals. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. I just know they're way cheaper. Okay. If we run out, I know some straight tickets that are available that you still can get a hold of them. So let me know. But I am very animate about it, and I probably should be more. Okay. But I'm not going to compromise anymore. I'm just going to say, I'm going to tell it like it is, man. You need to be there. Look, if you don't go, that's on you. Right. But I've told you how you can make a lot of money with us. And that's one of those things, right? Dial the dadgum phone and get out to family reunion July 18th through the 20th. You're not going to regret that decision no matter what. Okay. The other thing, obviously I'm not taking any questions, because if it's a mind game, it's a mind thing. You got to get your mind right. So who's reading books? If you're not reading a book to keep your mind right, you are making a big mistake. You got to be in a book. There's a lot of different sales books out there, but there's also mindset attitude books, like the Magic of Thinking Big by Schwartz. That's a great book, mindset attitude wise. The Magic of Thinking Big. If you haven't read that book, you have not read the most basic book in the Alliance lexicon of books that you need to read. 8 Steps to Success. You definitely have to read that book. The 8 Steps to Success by Andy Albright. It's on the Alliance store. Is it alliancestore.com or is it shop at Alliance? Something like that. You can find it on the Alliance store on the ARC, either under Connections or the other drop down. And you can get that book. It's only like 10 or 20 bucks, something like that. That's a basic book that you got to read. You got to read that book, because that was a book that Andy Albright put together of the 8 things that you need to do to become successful in anything in life, but it's conformed to what we do here at the Alliance. Okay. the 8 things to help you make 6 figures. Okay. And I mean, it's basic, some basic stuff. And guess what? All of it is based on getting your mind right, not mechanics on how to sell more. Okay. It's all how to get your mind right so you can sell more, so you can achieve your financial goals. That's another basic book. You got to read that book, right? So I'd recommend you get it right away. There's an audio version of it, I believe. I don't think you can find it on like Audible, but I think on the Alliance store, you can find the audio version of that as well. All right. Let me see. Does anyone have any questions for me? Questions, comments?
Hey, Alex, I put in the chat for you to see, but 3 meals are included for the conference.
Yeah, 3 meals.
Price is now at $349, and it's shopthealliance.com for the store if you don't go from the ARC.
Okay.
And then I was just going to ask, is there like a hotel that everybody's staying at, or is it kind of just find what you want, or how does that really go?
Yeah, it's like, because there's so many agents are going to come to Burlington, you can find, there's a ton of hotels and stuff. What we try to do is to try to get a night owl location where we all get together after one evening, like after Friday night, where we all get together and hang out as a team. We'll have a special place at the events center, and it's at the headquarters of the Alliance, where we get together as a team and share, talk, and maybe grab some pizza and have it delivered, that kind of thing. But we don't really, it's not possible to get all the team in one hotel. So, there's a lot of different inexpensive hotels around. And for those of you trying to defray costs, let us know if you don't mind having a roommate, and we can hook you up with somebody on our team that you can hang out with. And, and that's a great way to develop, running buddy relationships with people. And those of you that are willing to share rooms, let us know that so we can, partner people up, to save some money on rooms. And then also, depending on where you come from in wherever, you might find some people that are driving also out from where you are that you can share, a car ride as well, defray gas expenses. Look, we understand, man, it can be expensive, so we're trying to figure out ways to help defray the costs. And we know pretty much all the tricks. Okay. So, but great question, Paul. Thank you for that question. Anybody else? Okay. So I know I act a little crazy, and some of that is for performance emphasis, right? I'm not always an angry Filipino. But I am, sometimes you got to shake people. Okay. Now I don't do that one-on-one. Obviously, I really don't. But sometimes you got to like shake up, shake you up, wake you up, man, wake you up. I think a lot of the business is overcoming yourself. You think that the economy and all this stuff that's going on in the world, no, man, the battle is you. The battle's a man or woman in the mirror. And you got to win that battle, because if you don't win that battle, man, you're going to lose every time in all aspects of your life. In your marriage, in your relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, in your relationship with your children. You don't master you. And I don't care if it's in life insurance. It's a symptom of you not being able to discipline yourself in a way that you'll be successful in other aspects of your life, right? And it does. It's a symptom. What you'll find here is a symptom that will permeate in other aspects of your life. You'll realize stuff that you're doing here in insurance is the same reason why your relationship with your significant other sucks, or your relationship with your children suck. I promise you, a lot of things that you're going to discover here in the insurance will be the thing you discover that's wrong in other parts of your life. So, hey, let's fix it here. And then the spillover benefits are tremendous. So anyway, thanks everybody. Rock on. I'm glad you made it on the call. And
Alex,
Bruce.
Was Jeremiah, did he attend?
I'm sorry?
Was Jeremiah, did the top big money maker on Adam's team?
Oh, okay. Jeremiah has a passport issue.
Okay.
So if he left the country, his chance of getting back in the country is was questionable. But he more than made the trip. In fact, I was on the plane ride in first class with Adam last night. He goes, dude, you got to check this out. So he showed me his phone, and he showed me Jeremiah Daki's deposits for the last 4 weeks.
Right.
His deposits, like what he showed me, I wanted him to take a picture of it, but then I thought better of that because we can't let that kind of stuff out. Was over $462,000 in the last 4 weeks. Gross deposit into his commission account, purely in IULs. Last month he did 275 IULs, I believe. So how is he doing that? He's doing it a lot in his African community, and the African community that he deals with are people that are, they have college degrees, good jobs, multiple degrees, and they're putting in. He's telling them, look, if you want any significant amount of money when you retire, you got to put in $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month. Some are doing $5,000 a month, right? And he's knocking them down. Okay, so yeah, his wife made it. His wife was on the trip, and she brought another person on her team on the trip. But yeah, no lie, man. He's making some serious money on IULs. Does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah, I was just curious. What the heck is he doing? Yeah.
He's selling IULs to educated and getting referrals from the educated African community. That's why we're going into particular communities. Like Pablo is, I'm going down to do the estate plan to be with Adam and Pablo and meet. No, it's not Mimi. What's her name? Pablo.
Bridget M&E.
Bridget M&M, who's a mega IUL producer, and down there in Maryland. And we're going to be inviting some, very influential realtors that are in the Hispanic market. And we're so those are some of the strategies we're using to get into the ethnic communities, kind of the higher end ethnic communities, to try to duplicate what the Africans are doing in Texas and Maryland, other locations. So, all right, cool. All right, man. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being on the call. And look, I'm just trying to get you guys get off your butts and do something, right? And if it takes being passionate, I will be passionate. So I think sometimes I'm just too nice, but I did, like Coleman said, I was jacked up getting around all these winters, man. And I think here's the thing. Andy Albright says the biggest thing that burns his butt is unrealized potential. You need to memorize that. The biggest thing, when someone asks you, what is the biggest thing that burns Andy Albright's butt? It's unrealized potential. We got a whole buttload of unrealized potential on this call. So many of you can be so incredibly awesome in production. You just got to get through the learning curve. You got to believe in yourself, man. Right? And get into the lead programs and go out, step out on faith, and instead of buying that jacked up thing you're going to put on a credit card, why don't you buy some, higher intent leads? So anyway, thanks everybody. God bless. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, Alex.
Bye now.
Welcome back.
Thank you.